Multiple teams came in at way too high in the 2025 preseason coaches poll, given what they have proven and what they did last year. But who are those teams? Well, that'll be Four Downs, and it's brought to you by Cooper Mays. Cooper Mays tells you all, well, it's actually brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. But it's also brought to you by Cooper Mays, who asks you all to hit like and subscribe because that's just the kind of guy Cooper Mays is. Now, these teams that we're going to go through, it's not just 4 teams, but we're going to separate them into 4 categories as we play 4 downs because it's ridiculous where some of these teams are coming in the rankings. So once again, hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications, leave a comment, and let's get rolling with the egregiously high rankings. And we start with who's number 1. Coop here, first down. Texas at number 1. What do we think about that? I think this is a complete and utter joke. Not that I don't believe in Arch Manning. I am a fan of Arch Manning, but I don't understand the hype behind Texas. This is absolutely ridiculous. Texas beat one team all year to finish the season in the top 25. That one team was Clemson. Now, kudos to them for beating Clemson. And they beat him at home. I'm sorry, they beat 2 because they didn't beat Arizona State. But they really only beat 1 because they needed a horrible targeting call at the end, or non-targeting call, to beat Arizona State. They got a ton of help from the officials. Texas got away with horrible officiating to beat Arizona State. So their best win that was not tainted, their only quality win last year that was not tainted, was Clemson. They played Georgia twice, lost one of the times in which Georgia had a backup quarterback who was not cut out for the moment if you watched him in the college football playoff last year. They barely beat Vanderbilt. Oh, they blew out Oklahoma. I'm so impressed. They blew out Michigan. I'm so impressed. 2 really bad teams. And they needed 2 overtimes to beat Arizona State. Then they go and play Ohio State, and they quite honestly didn't look any better than Tennessee did against Ohio State, even if it didn't show up the same way on the scoreboard. Taking all that into account, Texas being number 1 is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not understanding this. I do understand the hype behind Arch Manning. I do believe in him, but I don't understand why everybody believes in Steve Sarkisian. He has not proven himself over the years. Texas should not be number 1. Honestly, Ohio State should be number 1. I'm just going to say it. Ohio State should be number 1. I think the way they finished the season strong, I think they're on a mission this year to continue that because of I just think they've proven they're the most talented team. They have the most talent this year. I think Ohio State under Ryan Day has earned the spot to be number 1, even if I don't believe in Ryan Day still as a head coach. I just think he lucked into a really red hot postseason when they were on a mission after the way they lost to Michigan. Texas, this is just ridiculous. I'm sorry. Texas hasn't proven anything. The brand outweighs the actual production of Texas and Steve Sarkisian to this point. Don't forget this. Before the last 2 years, Steve Sarkisian was 5-7 and 8-5 at Texas. Now, I know his last year in the Big 12, he did beat Alabama on the road and went 12-2, but he lost to Washington in the college football playoff, and Washington was not cut out to be in that playoff. So I'm sorry. Texas, to me, does not belong at number 1, regardless of how much you believe in Arch Manning. I think that is totally egregious. Cooper Mays here, second down. Penn State at number 3 and Clemson at number 6. Okay. These are teams that I just think are too high in general, that I think have a case for the top 10, but are a little too high. Penn State at number 3 is a little too high. Penn State did get 2 quality wins last year in the college football playoff over SMU and Boise State, a group of 5 team and an effective group of 5 team. Their best win in the regular season, far and away, was over Illinois, who did finish 10-3 to their credit under Brett Bielema, but that was at home. And they're really, and honestly, they lost to Ohio State 20-13, and then they lost the Big Ten title game to Oregon. They didn't do enough to show that they belong at number 3. That just seems ridiculous. Also, putting them ahead of Georgia, I think, is insane. Who honestly would, if Penn State and Georgia played on a neutral field right now, the world would favor Georgia. Everybody would favor Georgia. Notre Dame being behind Penn State at number 5, I think, is ridiculous too. Notre Dame beat Penn State in the college football playoff last year. Penn State's done nothing to prove to me that they should be number 3. 5-10, good. Number 3, absolutely ridiculous. Meanwhile, the same with Clemson, to be fair. Clemson is getting a lot of love for how they finished the season last year because it felt like Cade Klubnik finally figured things out. He got on a roll. They're kind of getting the Florida treatment. It's a little overrated, guys. Let's not forget with Cade Klubnik, they lost at home to South Carolina 17-14. Now, you can talk about how South Carolina finished the season strong because of Lenora Sellers. That's not why they beat Clemson, though. They beat Clemson with their defense, shutting down Klubnik. They won 17-14, okay? Then Clemson is coasting off the fact that they beat SMU in the ACC title game. But again, this is just common sense. SMU is not on an elite level. Who's looking at that and thinking that's a top 10 team? They played Texas and they lost pretty significantly. And I just told you guys why I think Texas is overrated. Look, Clemson at number 6 is ridiculous. I think Clemson should be in the 9 to 10 range. I don't understand how anybody could. I think the Cade Klubnik talk is a little bit similar to the DJ Lagway talk at Florida, if I'm being honest with you. There is some excitement for how both finished the season, but we're overrating their play to a certain degree. Again, they lost at home to South Carolina. I'm just not a believer in that. All right. Tennessee Center Cooper Mays here. Third down. Guys, tell me how much you like my impressions. Tell me if you like it or not, honestly. So I'm just trying to have a little fun. I don't know if you guys agree with me on it, but I'm just seeing here. Okay, so anyways, third down, the egregious ones. Miami in the top 10. I'm sticking with my ACC hate for a minute. Miami had the number 1 draft pick last year in Cam Ward, a player destined and built to run Mario Cristobal's offense. And yet they still lost 3 of their last 4 games. They lost to Georgia Tech 28-23. They lost to Syracuse 42-38. And then they lost to Iowa State 42-41. Now, those were all close losses, but you're also forgetting how lucky they were in the middle of the year because they should have lost to Cal. That was a very lucky win they had on the road. They should have lost to Louisville, another very lucky win. They just played a lot of close games, and they should have lost to Virginia Tech. And had Brent Pry and Justin Wilcox had half a brain cell combined, Virginia Tech and Cal both beat them. So I think we're significantly overrating Miami, and we're forgetting that they had 3 unlucky losses at the end of the year, but they had multiple lucky wins in the middle of the year. And most importantly, you can talk Carson Beck all you want. Look at the offense Mario Cristobal runs. Carson Beck's not cut out to run that offense. Cam Ward was a much better fit for that offense than Carson Beck was. So there's no way you can look at Miami and sit there and say they should be top 10. I just don't think they should be. And looking at who they beat last year, let's also just go down the list of who they beat. Who did they beat that actually finished ranked? Honestly, who they beat? They didn't have to play Clemson, by the way, nor did they have to play SMU, the top 2 teams in the ACC. They played Syracuse. They lost. Non-conference, they did blow out Florida at the beginning of the year. We all know that was a totally different Florida team than the one later in the year. They beat Florida A&M, Ball State, and South Florida. Miami had 0 top 25 wins on the year. They had 0 quality wins on the year. This team is massively overrated. And this year, when you look at their schedule, things are a lot different because they have to play Notre Dame to start the year. I'm pretty high on Notre Dame winning that game at this point. They also have to visit Syracuse, and I don't think Pitt's going away. Florida State, if they're better, that's going to be a dangerous game for them. Louisville could be, and then they have to visit SMU. So, no, they're not a top 10 team. 15-25, fine. They're not a top 10 team. I think Miami is Miami in the top 10 is absolutely ridiculous. They were massively overrated last year. 4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford. Lincoln, Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. 4th Down coming up next.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Employee pricing is here. You pay what we pay on all new Ford models. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
All SEC Center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
4th down. The team's ahead of Tennessee. Now, I'm going to say this up front. South Carolina is a team ahead of Tennessee that I have no problem being ahead of Tennessee. South Carolina finished the year ranked number 13. They have a quarterback who's NIL, who was maybe the best quarterback in the SEC, and whose NIL market was the entire reason Nico Iamaleava wanted more money for himself. They beat Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Clemson to close the year. They had more quality wins than Tennessee last year. On top of that, and when I mean more quality wins, they had 2 top 25 wins, and Tennessee only had 1. So there's that fact. But then there's also the fact that, yes, they lost to Alabama. Tennessee beat Alabama. They barely lost to Alabama on the road, 27-25. Tennessee beat Alabama at home. So I have no problem South Carolina being ahead of Tennessee. They finished 9-4. Tennessee did finish 10-3. But South Carolina, by every metric, played a much tougher schedule. And with that in mind, yeah, I got no problem with them. They've won their final 6 games. They were 3-3, finished 9-3. Lenore Sellers, maybe the best player in the SEC. I think he should be a Heisman contender, honestly. And now the one concern with South Carolina, to be fair, is they lose Dowell Loggins. But Mike Shula, guys, is a really good offensive coordinator, particularly with mobile quarterbacks like Lenore Sellers. We forget Mike Shula was the offensive coordinator when Cam Newton won his MVP in 2015. Okay, so this is the type of player that Mike Shula can coach. Got no problem with South Carolina being ahead of Tennessee. None whatsoever. Now, here's the other teams I do have a problem with being ahead of Tennessee. All right, and there's a few. We're going to start with and one more, by the way. I don't have a problem with Illinois being ahead of Tennessee. They did beat South Carolina at the end of the year. They got a couple of quality wins. I think that's a toss-up, a little more of a toss-up, but I don't think Illinois did anything to warrant being totally behind Tennessee. That's not egregious. Here's the egregious ones. Florida at number 17. That's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. There's no reason Florida should be ahead of Tennessee. Yes, Tennessee needed overtime to beat Florida last year. And yes, you may think that Tennessee will lose to Florida this year because they have to go to Gainesville, but that's not what these rankings are about. These rankings are about who you think the best team is. DJ Lagway's finish to last season is being so overrated, so overvalued. It's ridiculous. He threw for 300 yards against Tulane in a meaningless bowl game. He did not play well in November before that, though, with Florida, despite Florida's strong finish to the season. They won those games with defense. They beat Ole Miss and LSU because Ole Miss and LSU played horrible. LSU had quit on the season after losing to Alabama. Ole Miss expended all their mental energy beating Georgia. There's nothing impressive about either of those. So I think that's absolutely ridiculous to have Florida ahead of Tennessee. Another one that's ridiculous to have ahead of Tennessee. SMU at number 16. Okay, I'm sorry, but I know I'm being low on the ACC this year, but the ACC, it's not just that the ACC was bad last year, which it was, but it's the fact that the 3 best teams in the ACC, SMU, Clemson, and Miami, none of them played each other in the regular season last year. I think we forget that. It was really overrated. And SMU, what happened when they actually had to play somebody worth their salt? They did blow out Pittsburgh, turned out to be overrated. They did beat Louisville, though, on the road. But then in the postseason, they play Clemson in the ACC title game, lose 34-31, and then they play Penn State and lose 38-10. They also lost to BYU earlier in the year. I don't see any reason to think SMU is as good as their record indicated last year. There's absolutely no proof of that. And because of that, I got to be honest. I think SMU being ahead of Tennessee is absolutely ridiculous. Both suffered blowout playoff losses. Tennessee had a much tougher schedule during the regular season. So Florida, SMU is ridiculous. Another ridiculous one, Ole Miss. Ole Miss went 9-3 last year. They lost to Florida at the end of the year after expending all their capital, beating Georgia. And they lost their quarterback just like Tennessee did. Why in the world should Tennessee be behind Ole Miss? We know Lane Kiffin has shown no ability to keep teams together. I'm sorry. I think it's ridiculous for Ole Miss to be ahead of Tennessee. That's one of my biggest problems. And finally, Michigan at number 14. Now, I get it. Michigan finished. This is all about November last year. The whole Johnny Majors, they remember what you do in November. Michigan finished strong last year, winning their final 3 games, beating Ohio State and Alabama. Alabama was a meaningless bowl game. Ohio State, I think Ohio State took that weekend off, even though it was against Michigan, because they knew that. I know that's a hot take, but I think Ohio State didn't really care to go to the Big Ten title game and was focused on the playoff. Michigan still, we're forgetting, went 8-5 last year. I think they're massively overrated. We can't fully believe in Sharon Moore yet. They didn't earn the right to be ahead of Tennessee. That's just ridiculous. A couple of other ones that I want to address real quick. People are going to ask about Alabama and LSU, particularly how LSU finished last year. LSU's loaded with talent. I understand it. Alabama, I get they have a new quarterback, but that's going to make them better. Jalen Milroe was not a fit for Kalen DeBoer's system. He started him because he had to keep the team together. So I got no problem with that. I don't think anybody's going to debate Oregon being at number 7. And so those are the ones that really stand out to me.